This is the map of one of the least populated places in the world. This is Alaska, which sits here at the top of the world. Alaska is home to some of the most untouched nature on Earth, which makes it the perfect place for some of the toughest sled dog competitions in the world.
And so begins one of the most grueling sporting events in the world's most famous sled dog race.
If you wanted to send something across this land in the past, the most reliable and often the only option was to use sled dogs. But when airplanes and snowmobiles arrived, the need for sled dogs began to fade. The weeks of travel were cut into hours, and action was needed to keep the dog sledging tradition alive. So in 1973, a race was created to save the sled dog culture and Alaskan Huskies. This race became the Iditarod.
1,141 miles of snow, mountain ranges, wild animals, the creaking joints of ghost towns, and temperatures below the comprehension of urban man. The Iditarod Trail.
What started as a short race to keep the dog sledding tradition alive became one of the toughest races in the world, a 1,000-mile race from Anchorage to Nome. Each musher, the person leading a team of sled dogs, is required to have a team of 12 to 16 dogs. These sled dogs are some of the fastest long-distance runners on the planet, burning up to 10,000 calories a day, which is the same as 30,000 human calories or 50 Big Macs. Even for the fastest teams, the route takes 8 to 10 days to complete. The race has one mandatory 24-hour stop and 2 8-hour stops. Other than these 3 breaks, the goal is simple. Whoever reaches Nome first wins. Iditarod is often called the last great race on Earth, and today I want to show you why. What makes it so hard that only a handful of mushers take on the challenge each year? And what does it take to finish Iditarod?
Now it's the toughest competition in the sport and attracts teams from around the world, sharing Alaska's biggest sporting event with its largest city.
The next week and beyond, they'll be battling the elements and each other in inhospitable terrain, pushing themselves, dogs and humans together, in what's known here as the last great race, the Iditarod.
Easy, dog. Easy. Right here. Easy. Good dog.
Dorothy Page and Joe Reddington are often considered the mother and the father of the Iditarod. The main reason they started the race was to preserve Alaska's dog sledding culture, but it wasn't the only reason. They also wanted to get Iditarod declared as a National Historic Trail, which later gave the race its name. This trail was used for years to carry mail, supplies, people, and medicine between small villages. And years later in 1967, the first Iditarod was run as a shorter part of the historic trail. These early races helped to bring attention back to the historic trail, but it wasn't enough. It was quickly clear that if Iditarod wasn't expanded to cover the entire historic trail, it would quickly begin disappearing as people wouldn't simply use it. So after the first 2 shorter runs, Iditarod was first expanded to the coast town of Iditarod. And when the US Army reopened the entire trail in 1972 for winter training, the decision was made to stretch the race all the way to Nome, 1,000 miles across Alaska. People thought the full-length Iditarod from Anchorage to Nome was impossible. But against all odds, the first full-length Iditarod was organized in 1973. The first Iditarod was pure chaos. The trail wasn't well marked, checkpoints ran out of food, and the mushers went days without seeing another person. Mostly it was very primitive and alone out there. Several times I remember going 2 or 3 days without hearing any airplane or snowmobile. Mushers had to run by daylight as there were no headlamps yet. By today's standards, the dog food was also miserable. There was no guidance on how to feed a dog team that runs 8 hours a day. Most teams just had to guess. George Atla and I were gonna go moose hunting to feed the dogs, whatever it took to get to Nome, Sivi said. Despite all the setbacks, 22 out of 34 mushers made it to Nome and crossed the finish line on the first Iditarods. The first champion was Dick Wilmarth, finishing the race in just over 20 days. Since the first Iditarod in 1973, the race has evolved in every way imaginable, but what has stayed the same is the route mushers have to go through. The race has 26 to 27 checkpoints, each of which is is mandatory stop for the musher. The route passes through small communities where most have fewer than 100 people living. Weeks before the start of the Iditarod, mushers and their teams arrive in Anchorage, the start of the race. They draw their starting order.
Women running in this race. Patty, what number did you draw?
43.
You're kind of getting toward the back end for a starter, aren't you?
Yeah.
The higher the number you get, the later you start the race. Each dog must pass a health check and sleds are inspected. Mushers carefully pack their supplies. The sledges are packed up with only the most necessary things. The dog food cooker, cooler, a day's worth of food, sleeping bag, dog coats, dog boots, axe, snowshoes, minus 50-degree clothing, runner plastic, vet book and a knife. The rest of the stuff is flown to checkpoints across the trail. The race starts with a ceremony on the first Saturday of March. Mushers travel a short route through the city, so spectators can see the mushers and their dogs up close.
Dozens of mushers and their dog teams took part in the ceremonial start of this year's Iditarod Trail sled dog race Saturday.
The true race starts the next day at Willow, 70 miles north of Anchorage. Here, mushers are cheered on the 1,000-mile stretch. Teams leave the start line in 2-minute intervals. The official race time begins. From Willow, the race climbs into the Alaska Range and passes through the Yentna and Squentna checkpoints. In Squentna, teams are immediately faced with an important choice, to either spend the night there or continue on the trail overnight. This is the first of many hard choices teams have to make. Most top teams continue on the trail after midnight and the day 2 of the race starts. As Dallas Seavey, the only 6-time Iditarod winner says, day 2 is often one of the toughest.
A lot of mushers have a hard time staying awake between Squinton and Finger Lake. They probably didn't sleep very well the night before the race. The week before the race, they were probably busy preparing.
The distance from Squentna to the next checkpoint, Finger Lake, is 41 miles.
There are a lot of kind of divots and sharp turns. You've got to stay awake.
The first contenders reach Finger Lake by the morning, which is one of the many partial checkpoints, meaning it's only used for a short rest before moving on. On each checkpoint, the mushers have to present their vet book, and the race vet has to sign it. The vet book keeps track of each dog's health. If a dog shows signs of injury, the musher is required to leave the dog at the next checkpoint. The injured dogs are carried to the next checkpoints in a separate crate behind the musher. The next section from Finger Lake to Rainy Pass is a 29-mile stretch and is what's famously known as the Happy River Steps.
It's a series of very steep, sharp drops. Your peripheral kind of narrows down when you're focusing on that dog team.
The conditions of the Happy River Steps vary each year. The more mushers that run the steps, the deeper the rut gets and the more difficult it gets. After clearing this section, you will eventually arrive at Rainy Pass. The mushers will have to decide if they'll stay to rest or continue immediately.
This is where you'll see some mushers get here in first place, take an exceptionally long break to kind of give the rest back to the dogs that maybe they took out of their earlier breaks.
After leaving Rainy Pass, you'll spend a couple of hours climbing and you'll actually start making it over Rainy Pass, which is the highest point on the race.
So this is the mouth of Rainy Pass. It's about 5 miles from here up to the very top where we drop over into the Dalzell Gorge.
The steep drop down from Rainy Pass to Dalzell Gorge requires all the attention from a musher. Imagine 14 dogs running downhill around corners with you trying to stay on the sled. It's a wild ride. As you make it closer to Roan from Rainy Pass, you'll get into the glaciated section, icy river crossings, open water, temporary ice bridges.
You're going to get into oftentimes a lot of rocks and maybe even dirt as you head towards the Roan checkpoint.
A lack of snow is a major challenge for mushers and significantly slows down the race. Most teams arrive in Roan on the evening of day 2. Before challenging the difficult Farewell Burn area, many teams decide to take a break. The distance from Roan to Nikolai is 72 miles, which is one of the longer checkpoint distances. Nikolai is a hospitable checkpoint with hot water for dogs and a place to sleep.
And what the mushers are going to be thinking about now is, where do I take my mandatory 24-hour rest? This is a really important part of the race, and doing it correctly is very important.
According to Rule 13 of Iditarod, a musher must take one mandatory 24-hour stop at an official checkpoint during the race. And there is a strategy at play here. You don't want to stop too early for a long break, but you also don't want to push yourself and the dogs too far.
Is my team at the right point of needing to have a long break, but not having crossed a line where 24 hours of rest isn't enough to make them better than they were starting the race. That's my goal here.
From Nikolai, the next checkpoint is McRath, which is another 50-mile stretch. Depending on the mushers and the dog's condition, many stop at McRath and some continue to Takotna for the mandatory rest. At this point, many of the mushers are running on 3 days of practically no sleep.
It's good to get some sleep here and get your mind a little more clear. Start to get a little foggy after so many days of no sleep.
But my big concern was just getting my head to turn off. You know, I was afraid I was going to lay down and my head was going to keep going.
Another key concern on 24-hour stops is taking care of the dogs.
Team, making them comfortable, getting calories into their body, getting them good sleep. These are the only things we have to worry about.
After 24 hours, the musher and the dogs should feel rested. The next stop is Ophir, where the race splits into 2 routes. In the even years, the race goes through the northern route, passing Cripple, Ruby, Galena, Nulato and Kaltag. In the odd years, the race goes through the southern route, passing Iditarod, Shaglug, Anvik, Grayling, Eagle Island, and meeting the northern route at Kaltag. The coast towns of Iditarod and Crapple are considered the half points of the race. The middle of the race is the defining moment for the dog team. Either they come together like a team or they start to fall apart. This part of the race is considered often the most historic. You are passing through the coast towns and untouched parts of the Iditarod Trail. According to a musher in the 1997 Iditarod, the local wolf packs howl all night to vent their indignation at all their uninvited cousins intruding on their territory. You can rest assured you and your fellow mushers and checkpoint personnel are almost the only living humans in an area larger than many entire states. Weather plays a huge role in how quickly teams pass through these checkpoints. The fastest teams arrive on Kaltag on day 6. From here, you still have 340 miles to the finish line. You have one of the toughest challenges of the race ahead of you, the coastline of Alaska.
And the unique part is that the last 300 miles is on the coast of Alaska, and you have severe storms where it can blow between 60 and 100 miles an hour. And so even if it's not snowing from above, it'll pick up the ground snow and it'll cause these whiteout conditions, so you can't see the trail markers in front of you and you can't see your lead dog.
On a good day, the coastline might look something like this. But on most days, it looks something like this. With just 77 miles to go on the 2014 Iditarod, Jeff King left White Mountain 1 hour ahead of Dallas Seavey. He appeared unbeatable.
Shortly after leaving White Mountain, I remember going, I'm pretty sure I'm going to win this.
But something changed quickly.
Really wasn't until I got to the top of Topcock and looked out over the ocean and got my first glimpses of the weather to the northwest towards Nome that I saw that telltale gray fog.
The wind would catch you and singe you, 90 degrees away from where you were heading. We were running this way, the wind gust hits us, and now we're going that way. And then there are places where I would literally have the snow hook stuck in the ice or hooked to a piece of driftwood and the wind's just blowing us, and I feel like if I let go of this or if this pops out, there is nothing between me and open seawater.
Jeff King decided the safest thing was to stop and cover his dogs with a sleeping bag. He was just 3 miles away from the safety spot. In Dallas Seavey's mind, the safest thing was to continue all the way to the safety stop, where without knowing, he arrived first.
The first thing I asked him was, where is everybody? For 2 reasons. One, this is the type of conditions that things can go sideways real fast. And secondly, is everybody still alive?
He thought Jeff King had already passed the safety stop. With this in mind, he quickly left the safety stop and continued towards Nome. He arrived there first, not knowing he had just won the race.
I got across the finish line and pretty much fell onto my sled. I was out of it. A cameraman who I had had a bit of a running joke with the whole race asked the question, did you think you could do it?
Think you could do this?
And everything now started to kind of fall into place, and I had to ask, did I think I could do what?
What the heck did I do? You just won the Iditarod 2014. Are you kidding me?
It took Dallas Seavey 8 days, 13 hours, 4 minutes and 19 seconds to cross the Iditarod finish line which was the course record at the time. Rich Cheevy, a professional dog musher and Dallas Seavy's dad, broke all records by finishing in 8 days, 3 hours, 40 minutes and 13 seconds in 2018. To this day, this stands as the fastest time to finish the Iditarod. Since the first Iditarod in 1973, the race has evolved in every way imaginable. The training has improved, the equipment has gotten better, and the dogs have gotten better. During the first years of Iditarod, there was less focus on the well-being of the dogs. That began to change in 1978, when Susan Butcher entered her first Iditarod. Susan made it cool to care for the dogs, train them, know them, and respect them as true teammates. She worked year-round with her dogs, studying their strengths, building trust, and conditioning them with the same discipline she applied to herself. In doing so, Susan started virtually owning the race. She won the race first time in 1986 and the second time in 1987. In her 1987 victory, Susan became involved in a tactical battle against her arch-rival, Rick Svensson. When it was clear Susan would win, Svensson clearly wasn't happy.
She thinks she's so damn good. And what it really is she's real fortunate to have an exceptionally good leader right now. When she doesn't have that dog anymore, she's going to realize that she's not quite as good as she thinks she is.
Susan went on and won the race 2 more times in 1988 and 1990 without that lead dog, proving Svensson wrong.
Before I won, it was often said, well, Susan will never be able to win because she babies her dogs too much. And, you know, the next year, when I won, instead of coming in second place, they said, well, Susan wins because she takes such good care of her dogs.
Iditarod competitors now understand that the better care you take of your dogs, the higher chance you have at winning. Dogs are trained all year round, and they even receive post-run massages. Their nutrition is better understood, and they get the right amount of food. This is extremely important, as sled dogs consume 10 to 12,000 calories during a race day. The dogs require full-time care, and the mushers attending Iditarod have to dedicate their entire lives to the sport. The time and money required, paired with inflation, have made it simply too expensive for many people to attend. This is probably the reason why the number of attendees on the 2025 Iditarod was at an all-time low. Most teams spend anywhere from $10,000 to $80,000 per year on gear such as booties, food and dog care. Iditarod initially got the name "The Last Great Race on Earth" when a reporter in 1978 used these words to explain his thoughts and observation about the race. Other than the Yukon Quest, which is also a dog sled race held in Alaska, there is no other event that challenges dogs and humans against such harsh conditions. The mushers have to face a 1,000-mile track through the Alaskan mountain ranges, frozen rivers, and the long coastline where the winds can pick up to 60 to 100 miles per hour. And to even get to the starting line, you have to take care of your dogs like you would take care of human endurance athletes. Training is year-round, and the best teams run around 2,000 miles before the race. The challenge of handling all of this well is the reason why so few teams attend the Iditarod each year, and is also the reason why Iditarod is still considered the last great race on Earth. And this race title is something many people still agree to. See you in the next one, guys!